Welcome to the Startup Sessions, the number one web show and podcast for trusting your gut, breaking the rules, and starting something meaningful. Featuring in-depth interviews with acclaimed creative entrepreneurs that have succeeded at building their own remarkable businesses. I'm your host, Michael Knouse, and welcome to the final episode of Side Hustle Month, where I've been interviewing experts about everything you need to know to start a meaningful business on the side. And today, I have side hustler extraordinaire Dave Hoch with me to describe his process for creating a purpose-driven business while working a full-time job. Dave has done a masterful job at blending his interests of biking culture, service, and social entrepreneurship to create a unique and inspiring business that will have a huge impact on supporting other like-minded entrepreneurs. It's all coming to you right now on episode 26 of the Startup Sessions. Hello, everyone. I am Michael Knouse from the Startup Sessions. Welcome, everybody, to today's show. I'm super excited. We're wrapping up Side Hustle Month, and I've got someone today that's in the process of creating an amazing business that allows other businesses to thrive. He is like in the heat of the side hustle because he has a day job, and David is working to aggressively get his business up and off the ground. So I've got Dave Hoch here, founder of the COG Space, with me. And welcome to the show, Dave.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So here's the deal. Like I said, Dave's in the thick of it. He's creating a very cool co-working space and startup incubator for the bicycle industry here in Portland. And for those of the listeners and viewers that aren't familiar with Portland, Portland's one of the most bike-friendly cities in the world. And there are literally hundreds of small bicycle-focused startups here. And I learned this from David when we sat down and spoke a few weeks ago. And you are really embracing this passion of yours, as well as this mecca of bicycle enthusiasts here in Portland, to tap into something really unique, really creative, and I think this is just the coolest thing. So I'm excited to dig into the COG Space, which is a hybrid co-workspace and accelerator for small bike businesses. First off, Dave, share with us maybe some fun tip about Portland's bike culture.
Yeah, well, Portland's bike culture is kind of the quintessential thing if it hasn't been covered on the Portlandia show already. The short answer of it is you can't really go anywhere without seeing people ride bikes. It's the primary mode of transportation, up to 25% for most people on the east side of town. And we've got 400 different businesses, ranging everything from people that make backpacks to people that are making cargo bikes. You'll see people riding down the street with double-decker tall freak bikes, as they call them. It's everywhere. It's ingrained in the culture here. You can't go somewhere without seeing them. So,
thank you. Yeah, I just want to give people a feel for what it's really like.
Yeah, and Michael, it's probably worth mentioning too is Portland's one of two cities in the country that's American League certified platinum for bike infrastructure. So we built it in the 90s, and now the people have come and started riding their bikes. So.
And it's so cool. I mean, it doesn't matter that it rains here half the year because people still embrace it. People strap on all of their weatherproof, waterproof gear, and put their fenders on their bikes and just keep going anyway. It's fascinating to me, and it's this culture that's very ingrained in the city, and it's pretty cool because I mean, there's bike lanes, there's bike everything here, and you, my friend, have fully embraced or in the process of embracing the business culture here around bike businesses and, one of your passions, which is biking, to do something really, really cool called the COG Space. So I'd like to start by having you share a bit about what is the COG Space and what are some of the things that you aim to do with this business idea.
Right. So a little background on what the COG Space is and of itself. I've spent many months sort of thinking about what I can do as a livelihood for myself and my career and how I can make an impact. And you mentioned being a bicycle enthusiast, and I'll admit it, I'm a recovering SUV driver. I moved to Oregon 7 years ago, sold my SUV 3 years ago, and been a committed rider ever since. I've noticed all this booming industry here in Portland. Like I mentioned, backpack manufacturers, light manufacturers, and I thought to myself, wow, there's so much talent in the city, much like you'd have a lot of talent in the Bay Area with like in the tech industry. Wow, is there a way that we can harness this collective energy in a way to build social capital for the city, for the community, the industry, and really make a difference? So I came to this idea of building sort of an incubator and workspace with all of these businesses. I mentioned there's 400 different businesses here, and it's about a $120 million industry. It's booming.
Wow.
So my thought is, if we can bring these people together in a way that they're not having conversations today, they're not partnering, they're not looking at opportunities to where they can be part of a sharing economy, right, where they can share resources, where they can share services. It seems like it's a very ripe opportunity for Portland, which is very much a DIY, a very small business-oriented city, to support sort of this, my neighbor makes something, I make something, why aren't we talking, why aren't we looking at efficiency gains? So the short answer to your question, or the long answer to your question, is the COG Space in of it itself, it's an incubator workspace that dedicates our attention towards essentially a sharing economy, working on services like, hey, who does your bookkeeping? Who does your social media? Who does your finances? Who do you go to for legal?
Yeah.
And what I'm finding, and I've had 150 different conversations with businesses, is that they don't have the time or the energy or the money to go and find everybody that they need to help their business.
Yeah.
So what I'm looking to do is move those boulders aside, create a pipeline for them to grow in a way that's cost effective for them. It makes it easier for them, and quite frankly, it grows their business.
Yeah.
It's fairly straightforward. At least I like to think so.
Yeah. I love it. And to me, so I knew of startup incubators when I thought of, before running into you, when I thought of a startup incubator in a co-working space, I always thought of technology because I came from the technology space, or maybe even more generally, just an entrepreneurial space for businesses in general. But you're really the first person that I've ever spoken to that's like said, hey, here's a niche that's local. There's definitely a need. Over 400 businesses in small business in the bike industry, and so I would encourage, even listeners and viewers out there, like if you're a collaborator, you like to bring people together, you love the startup mindset, this is a great idea from a niche perspective that you could offer around, like pretty much anything that that is applicable in your area, and put the pieces together and offer a brilliant service like this. It's phenomenal. I just love the fact that you're doing this.
Yeah, one thing I'll throw into it too, Michael, is being around a niche environment is you have people that already have skills and inherent knowledge in the industry. You're not teaching somebody who has a manufacturing background in high tech to understand how to ride a bike or how to build lights.
Yes.
They already have that built-in knowledge. So you're not starting from the first step. You actually see this in a lot of renewable energy in the Bay Area. Again, there's a lot of startup and incubator environments there where they say, let's all get together. We're all working for a common purpose. So now we've got a shared mission. Now we have shared values.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we believe there's like a level of trust and understanding you can already move forward with.
Yeah, God, it makes it makes the whole thing even more cohesive and stronger. Exactly. And the momentum behind it, and the services that can be offered. I mean, you get a small business attorney in the COG space that gets to be focused on bicycle businesses, and look at the benefits of that for that person and for everybody involved. You've got someone talking the same language to a bunch of different bicycle businesses. And the same across the board with accountants and bookkeepers and marketing agencies and you name it. List goes on, right?
One area I've found that the biggest problem people have in this is insurance. Insurers have no idea what bike businesses do. They have no concept. And I'm looking at solving that problem right now, working on a sort of like an association of pool businesses together to help them get their liability insurance a lot less expensive because, again, insurers have no clue. Same thing with bookkeeping. You're right. It makes more sense that there's a knowledge gain, so you don't have to start from square one. Like, I have no idea what a bike business does, but I'm really good at bookkeeping. I'm a CPA. But if you understand businesses already and you understand bike businesses, suddenly you don't have to spend 10 hours. Now you can spend 5, and you can save the amount of hours that you would be spending otherwise.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
You're exactly right.
Yeah, I mean, as a small business owner, as an entrepreneur, solopreneur, really, leverage is one of the most important things you can have early on when starting a business. And to me, this co-working space, sharing resources, is the ultimate in leverage to cut back on risk and give yourself the best chance to succeed. Not to mention all the connections that you can build along the way.
Exactly. The other thing I'll throw out in my experience in going through the COG space and doing this as a side hustle is I've been an entrepreneur for a long time in corporate America, and I've always sort of carved out my thoughts and how I can make an impact internally. What I'm finding is, even though you're a small business or small business owners that are out there, they need internal entrepreneurs. They need someone in their own company to sort of drive them and ask the challenging questions. Often they're just one person, or maybe they're 2 or 3, and they got their heads down and they're working really hard. So what I'm looking to do, and I found an opportunity here, is to sort of gain the inside knowledge of their business and then ask them the tough questions, the challenging questions that they might not even know how to answer. And it's intentional. It's to steer them in a direction to say, well, have you thought about marketing campaigns with social media before? Well, yeah, I kind of like social media, but I don't really know how to use it. Okay. So it's taking on more of I call it like a white glove, hands-on approach. If you go to most incubators, most startups, or accelerators, even co-workspaces, you come in the door, pay your membership, you sit down, you maybe go through some classes, but there's not really this hands-on, let's actually talk about your business. Let's go through some design charrettes. Let's understand where your business is at and where you can get the most help. Yeah. You might not need help in bookkeeping, accounting, whatever it is, but you may not realize that, in my case, in being in Southeast Portland, I've got 2 other backpack manufacturers 1 mile away. Why are these people not talking and having a conversation about purchasing power and sharing equipment?
Yeah.
You might not think of doing that if you don't sort of take that entrepreneur route as an external person looking at their businesses in a focused business industry.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, I really, and I keep, the more I think about this, the more I'm just like blown away by the level of value that you're offering specifically to small bicycle businesses and entrepreneurs. Like, why would you not become a part of this unless you were already up and running and, like well on your way? Why would you not? Why would you not?
That's the intent.
Yeah.
And I've partnered with another organization called Forge Portland that's doing something very similar, which is a different niche industry. They're doing it in social entrepreneurship and nonprofits, right?
Yep.
And we're looking at the capacity here, going, why don't we share a space? Why don't we share resources? It's the same value being added to my business that I want to offer to other businesses.
Yeah.
You make it so cost affordable that it's cheaper for you to go through what I'm trying to offer than doing it on your own, and not including like your time and your effort and how much energy you have to spend.
Sure, yeah. I'm glad you mentioned Forge too. I was so focused on just what you're doing. I mean, so you're essentially two organizations pooling your idea together in one co-working space, and that in and of itself is just kind of taking the whole co-working space idea deeper and further because you're collaborating with someone else that's also doing something and serving a specific market, a specific niche. So social entrepreneurship also seems to be this area that's a hot item right now. I'm hearing the term more and more and more. Actually, this is a question I have that I was just thinking. I'm not even sure I can think of a good example right off the top of my head of what a social entrepreneur is. It's very general to me. What's an example of a social entrepreneur?
Yeah, social entrepreneurship's, you throw the word social in there, so there's a social benefit. You're looking to improve the planet, people, society in a better way than it lives today. So you're a mission-oriented organization. You might have heard of benefit corporations or B Corps that are out there today.
Yes.
They're both legal and certifications. Those were built off of social entrepreneurship. Someone like Tom's. the guy that
Yeah.
made the great shoes, right?
Yeah.
That would be considered when he started off as social entrepreneurship, because he's, for every shoe being bought, he's also donating one to people at need. So
Okay.
there's a mission behind it. So rather than saying, really the concept, Michael, comes from people that say, I'm kind of fed up with traditional big business or small business and the way the system and capitalism works today. And I would actually, much rather than just trying to work for my own deep pockets, I would rather give something back to society. I would rather say, how can I make my business make an impact for the greater good? So that's the social side of it.
Okay, so it's more than about just all profits all the time and shareholder value and everything like that. It's yes, I mean that's a business, so that's involved, but it's thinking bigger and more positive impact for the planet, everybody involved.
Yeah, it started with the triple bottom line and people, planet, profit, and business has so been focused on profit for so many years, and now it's moving into this quadruple bottom line with also story, or you'll also hear people say purpose. So what is the purpose of this? What is the intention? Because quite honestly, we've got a lot of businesses out there doing really good. Now they just have a title for what they're doing.
Sure. I love it. And so I love that, we've kind of given a good little advertisement here for your partner in your space.
Sure.
And I really encourage people to go check it out. I mean, I'll link up the show notes here on the episode, but it's the cogspace.com, correct?
Correct. Yep. That's
and
it.
What's the URL for your partner in the co-working space?
Yeah, forgeportland.org. And I'm actually a co-owner of that too. We've merged, as you talk about, doing a side hustle, right? One of the opportunities is through partnerships, because you only have so much time, especially if you're working in this duality lifestyle.
Yeah.
You have to get to a place where you say, can I gain a good amount of my business growth through partnerships, through strategic partnerships, quite frankly, rather than just, I'm going to go pick somebody off the street and decide to partner with them.
Yeah.
So it's worth mentioning too that as you have this dual life and you've got a goal in mind, that you look at different strategies to getting to that goal.
Yeah.
If you talk big business, what they often do is they'll buy their way into other markets, not through natural organic growth. They'll consume someone other business, will absorb them, and all of a sudden they have a footprint in another market or another product or another industry.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, good. There's just so much. I'm just sitting here thinking about all the value for someone who's creating a side hustle. I mean, it's hard enough when you're working to get your great idea off the ground, right? And any point of leverage along the way that you can possibly gather for yourself and put the odds in your favor can be hugely beneficial over time. Because if you're working a day job and you're given 6, 8, 10 hours to that, it's limited time to focus on getting your other business your side hustle off the ground. So this makes so much sense, especially for side hustlers, which kind of brings me to, okay, let's talk about for you then.
Sure.
What were the most important steps that you took when you first started going down the path with your side hustle? Maybe you can share just some value there around, just thinking back, what were some of the most important, really practical steps that you took when you kind of first had this idea and it caught hold of you? What were some of the first most important things that you did to get this whole thing rolling?
Yeah. Two things come to mind, Michael. When I'm never short on business ideas. It's just the creativity inside me. It's the juices are always flowing. We've talked in the past about doing brainstorming. I love it. It. What made it meaningful for me to actually taking the next steps and taking an idea from sort of this seed and growing it into a flower was, quite honestly, I validated the idea with friends and family. It sounds very simple. I threw it, you've probably heard of the business model canvas, put it up on a business model canvas, went through it, looked at it and said, okay, yes, this looks like a viable option on paper. And then the most important piece for me was, does it align with my values? Does it align with my purpose or my livelihood in life? Am I going to go, let's say, you play this sort of speculation game in your head, and you see yourself a year, 2 years, 3 years down the road, and am I going to look back in my career and the time that I've spent and be proud of the work I've done? To me, that's what all entrepreneurs should ask themselves. as they're getting started. Whether you're doing it as a side hustle, you're doing it as your sole efforts. You really should think about, does this align with my mission and vision? And then am I going to be happy doing this? So pretty simple. I put it through a BMC, a business model canvas. I validated the idea. I thought about, am I going to truly be happy in this job, in this role? Can I grow in it? What am I going to learn? If the business fails, which it might, right?
Yeah.
Is it still success? Is it still considered a success for me? Yeah. So the example is, what does success look like, right? Does that mean that the business is making a lot of money and it's, I don't have to work a lot and I'm on a yacht in the Caribbean or whatever it is? No, but you want to think about those things. You want to think about what is success. For me, it was getting a foot into the cycling industry, something I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
Having conversations with people that are like-minded, that are struggling with various areas of their business. Really, at the end of the day, you're trying to solve a problem. You look at that problem and you say, how can I solve this? People will pay for it. They'll support you. The businesses will come together and find a way to get their problem solved if you identify that problem and offer them a solution.
Okay. I'm the biggest
lot of stuff.
No, it's great because I'm the I've been through businesses, co-founded and then founded another small business, and at both times, this was like before lean startup and all this stuff.
Sure.
Recognized out of I guess just sheer luck, the need to go out and validate products, and it was so critical and key to the success of both of those businesses. But one of the things that I didn't do was what you mentioned, was just kind of looking at the longer, bigger picture, because honestly, in one of those other businesses I was involved with, I just jumped into it really to get out of something else. And I was a couple years into it thinking, oh, this is such a grind, there was really, it was not tied to closely to my values outside of just be doing something entrepreneurial and more interesting. I burnt out on it and had to unwind that. So thank you for mentioning that. All those pieces are pieces to the puzzle that are invaluable to someone that's wanting to get started and do the side hustle.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So another question for you. Something that I hear a lot, and sometimes I think it's an excuse from people, and sometimes I think it's an honest to goodness, soul-searching question. And that is, for someone like you that's bringing your passion or one of your passions, one of the things you love, bicycling and a hobby. I mean, that can easily be a hobby that you enjoy every day as part of your life. But then when you bring that hobby into being a business, people often wonder and ask the question of, well, gosh, how do I treat that hobby as a business? And does that essentially ruin my hobby and suck the life out of it? So what's your take on that, Dave?
Yeah, so that's actually a really good point, Michael. And I've actually gone through that thinking myself of, for me, the question became, so I have lots of hobbies. I have lots of things I'm interested in.
Yeah.
At what level does that hobby need to participate in my daily work lifestyle? Or can it just stay a hobby? For me, I had to ask myself some difficult questions. And it was really along the lines of, okay, let's say that I choose to go and do something non-entrepreneurial in the cycling industry. Again, am I going to look back and regret not going into that? Am I going to look at it as a missed opportunity? Am I going to look at it as something that, I really wonder if I should be focusing on that. I think there's a very valuable tool, and looking back at who you are over a period of time. A simple example of this is a lot of times people will say, well, elevator speech, hey, Michael, what are you interested in? What do you do in your spare time? What do you like to do? Just tell me who you are. Yeah. And if you were to just take a sheet of paper and jot down who you are, all the little words that describe who you are, you'll start to be able to connect the dots. Right? You'll start to see similarities. And if you're able to see the similarities, you can start to look at, okay, for me, I was writing a bike blog 4 years ago.
Okay.
Went to grad school, focused in social entrepreneurship. Someone said to me, what do you want to do? Well, I like water conservation. I love renewable energy. I want to save the world. Wow, but here I am writing about bikes again. And I think back to my blog. That was a hint, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's very simple. I think you do have to be honest with yourself, though, Michael. And if you're pursuing something that is a hobby of yours, you have to define, is it a hobby or is it a passion?
Yeah.
If it's a hobby, maybe it stays a hobby. Maybe you will get burnt out in doing it if you fully dive into it. If it's a passion and you really surround your life around it, this is when work doesn't feel like work, right?
Yeah.
People always say that. I want a job where it doesn't feel like I'm actually doing a job.
Yeah.
Well, if you're surrounding yourself around your passions, chances are you'll be okay. You'll actually embrace it, and you'll get to that next level of absorption, understanding, knowledge, and then being able to share that wealth of information you've absorbed to other people.
I love that, because there truly is, and you know this, I know this now. There's nothing like being fully absorbed in something that you really care about,
Right.
and that you feel like you're, serving another community with, or even a single person. I have one-on-one coaching clients, and just if I feel like I've served that client in some way, doing what I love to do, it's the best feeling in the world, and I get paid for it. Gosh, that's not a bad deal.
Yeah. That's the new American dream, man. That's right.
Yeah, it truly is. It truly is. I went to this conference 3 weeks ago, right here on the cup, Pioneer Nation.
All right.
Plug for Pioneer Nation and Chris
There we
Guillebeau.
go.
And it was all about empowering entrepreneurs. He called them independent entrepreneurs, small business owners, solopreneurs, because the world really is changing. There's less opportunity in corporate America. And honestly, there's just more resources to do whatever the hell you want with your own idea, your own company, your own business. It's like all the excuses are disappearing with technology and resources and like things like you're doing. If you really want to embrace something that's more meaningful, like go for it. Now is the time. Now is definitely the time.
I agree with you, and I'll throw it out too. The biggest hurdle people often face is, I don't even know how to do this. I don't know where to go. And the rules of the game have changed. Look at crowdfunding. I mean, the big hurdle of, I don't even know where to fund my business. That's the biggest fear. Well, you know, you can overcome that now pretty easily. Yeah,
it's so true. Okay, I love this. I have a feeling our time's going to go by so fast, and probably already is.
Yeah, you and I get going on this stuff. It's hard to slow down. I understand.
Yeah. Okay. So you talked about we talked about a few great things about the important first steps in balancing a passion with a business. What about, let's see, in terms of laying a foundation for a side business or a side hustle, just those, what are the components of laying that solid foundation to give yourself all the opportunity in the world to succeed? What are some of those components that were critical for you, Dave?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and something that I had to think a lot about not too long ago. Someone gave me actually really great entrepreneurial advice, which was get an advisory board set up.
Okay.
Get an advisory board set up of people that have all different skills. Mm-hmm. Get a lawyer, get an accountant, get someone that's great in tech, whatever it is, that have been around a long time. Get them together and say, hey, we may never meet, but I want to use you as someone that I can bounce ideas off of, and you can sort of coach me. That was single-handedly the most beneficial thing for me. And really, it was just asking people, do you even have a recommendation of someone? Because startups can be fun, they can be invigorating, they can be, the risk is there, but the reward is there. So advisory board was the biggest thing for me. That was the most obvious. And then, quite honestly, I built this is going to sound really cheesy, but organization is the most important thing you can do when you're running a startup. And your head's constantly spinning. I have to get a bookkeeper. I have to register my business. Okay, what do I do for social media presence? And you, especially as a side hustle, right? Because you have even more finite amount of time. I went and made a giant Kanban board. I don't know if you're familiar with Kanban boards, but you basically, I took a wall in my house and I taped it up, and you build a table, and you put a bunch of post-it notes up there, and you categorize everything.
Yeah.
And it becomes a way for you to compartmentalize the work that you need to do.
Okay.
In a way that doesn't seem overpowering, doesn't seem that you're not going to be able to get to it all, but you can, and if someone goes to like Google Images, you can just type in Kanban, Kanban, and find a board. That was super, super helpful. That was something that, and even if you were to type like Kanban board for startups,
Mm-hmm.
you know, this is actually another point to your question, Michael. You don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
You're not the first person to start a small business, right? There's all the facets that are out there of the different components that you need. Find out what those components are and backcast your way. So find out where you want to be at the end and say, this is what I want to be doing. Okay, for example, my business is selling things online as part of e-commerce. Well, I got to have a website. I got to have an e-commerce site. I have to have a way to process those payments. Put it all together in a Kanban board. For me, this is what worked.
Mm-hmm.
That lays the foundation of where your roadmap is to succeed. And then you just start knocking things off one by one, by one, by one. Do one a day kind of thing, and pretty soon you realize, well, it wasn't that challenging. I thought of like the overall starting a business, that could be pretty overwhelming, right?
Yeah.
But if you break it up into 50 small pieces and you knock out each small piece, that makes it a hell of a lot easier.
Cool. I have not. I've heard of the Kanban board, but I've never heard it explained like you just explained it as a resource that can be used for early stage side hustlers. I'm going to look into it.
It came out with lean manufacturing, if I recall, in TQM for Japanese auto manufacturers, and they did it as a methodology for basically reducing inefficiencies.
Sure.
Right. So when you're in a side hustle, again, you only have so much time. You have to be as fluid as possible, as flexible as possible, and you got to be able to know when you only have an hour what you're capable of. Yeah. Use that hour as productive as possible without getting burnt out. And so for me, Kanban is, I modified this for myself. Yeah. Right? It's not necessarily for startups, but I found some guys doing co-housing in the Bay Area, and they're called Sandbox House, and there's some friends of mine. And they had a giant Kanban board there for everybody that was in the office or the place that they were living together. Yeah. And actually, I'll be rolling a massive one out at the COG Space. And this is all it's actually going to be a community-based one. So people can add to the Kanban, and we'll all contribute to getting those ideas to actually getting them completed. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's great topic, great subject, one I could go on hours about. I'm a big fan of Kanban.
Okay, that is a great resource. I've never had anyone mention that on the show before, so that's something unique and helpful. And for me too, there's something about, so if I have an hour a day to devote to my startup, if I have clarity going into that hour, I've got energy about going in with excitement, enthusiasm, because I know what I'm going to have to get, what I get to do to move my business one step forward. If I go into that hour with no clarity, I might spend 15 minutes, messing around trying to figure out what's most important before I even get to it. So huge value in this. Huge value in this.
Yeah, it reduces your time to plan, thus making you more efficient.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, cool. Thank you for that. All right, so one of the things too that I wanted to ask you is, especially for side hustlers, people that they've got a day job and they've got only so much time. Often there's more to do than can get done, and there's it's a roller coaster. Anybody who starts a business on the side, it's a roller coaster day to day. So what are any tips for us for staying motivated through the tough times of getting a business off the ground, especially while you're still working a day job?
Ooh, that's a good question, and I should probably mention that any time you're starting a small business, it's going to be a roller coaster. There's going to be days you wake up and you go, oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm doing this. What am I doing? And there's going to be, those are usually Mondays. And then there's going to be days where you wake up and you're like, yeah, I am hitting this. This is good. I'm really appreciating this. Quite honestly, I'm a Post-it note junkie. I should probably own stock in them and make some social entrepreneur business based on recycled Post-it notes, but that's another concept. I actually caught wind of this thing called like a gratitude place, whatever you want to call it. And when I had something good happen in my business, I take a Post-it note, I take the main word out of that situation or experience, I write it down and I put it on my board near my office on my computer.
Okay.
So when I'm feeling down and I got my grumpy face on and I'm not motivated, I can look up at this and go, well, geez, Dave, I had 27 great connections over the last 6 months.
Yeah.
I'm doing something right.
Yeah.
I've got all these people that I've had conversations with, and you're on there too, by the way, Michael, as I can look at it and go, okay, this is my catalyst for what I'm doing. People are believing what I'm saying. They're believing in the mission. They're believing in the experience. Okay, I got this. So it's simple. People aren't always people are visual, right?
Sure.
We're in a society of visual learners, so you can look up and see something. And you don't have to actually read all the notes. You can just see that there's 30 of them up there, and you can go, all right, that's all I need to know.
Cool.
There you go.
Again, I have not heard of that specific idea before. That's the first time that's been shared on this show. Actually, it's the first time I've even heard of something like that done that way. So
I'm combining.
You're in the right spot, man.
I'm combining years of a self-help research into how to run a startup business. It's kind of like merging in a way that benefits me. That helps me.
It's benefiting you and it's benefiting everybody that's listening and watching. So
that's right. Yeah.
Bravo. Okay. Right. So much good stuff here. Let's see. Let's go into our lightning round of questions. All right. So this is something that now I'm looking forward to because I've been doing it here for, I think this is either the third or fourth week, and people just like to know what are the most important and helpful resources that other entrepreneurs and side hustlers are finding useful. So let's start out with most influential book for you, Dave.
Most influential book. I've actually found mindfulness very important in starting a startup. So I read 2 years ago, I think his name's, I'm probably butchering it, Thich Nhat Hanh's Miracle of Mindfulness. Buddhism-based book. Teaches you how to focus, and believe me, when you only have so much time, I keep coming back to that, and you got to focus. It's incredibly helpful to teaches meditation, but also teaches you to stay focused on what you're doing at the time.
Okay, great.
Pretty straightforward.
All right.
Incredibly powerful book. Absolutely stunning.
Thank you. Best conference or industry event and why?
I will be completely transparent here. I am not a big fan of industry events or conferences. I think they're often run very poorly. No offense to the one you promoted. They're often completely asynchronous. People stand there and they just stare and they listen and it just goes in their ears. They don't get a chance to actually talk and process it. So I'm gonna do a self plug for an event I put on 2 weeks ago, which was the PDX Unbike. It's an unstyle conference. We got 40 businesses together, 40 bike businesses, and I basically said, what are your problems? Tell me. Shout them out. We went through eight different topics. We had breakout groups. People actually got to talk.
Yeah.
And they got to talk with other people there and collaboratively solve a problem rather than just going in my head and trying to think about how I'll remember it, but probably won't because I'm more focused on what I'm eating for dinner, which is typically how these events go.
Yeah. Love it. All right. Most effective strategy for growing your business up to this point?
Up to this point, I don't know if I would call this purely a strategy, but business is nothing more than solving a problem. You find a common thread of a problem amongst multiple people, and if there's a large enough audience that have that same problem, you can solve that problem however you want to. That's the solution. So for me, the strategy is understanding what the problems are. I have assumptions on what businesses need, but I'm asking them. And often, some of those assumptions are right, some of those assumptions are wrong. So it's always coming back to the same thing of what is the problem at hand? How can you add value to those businesses, to other businesses or people if you're an entrepreneur? How can whatever I'm going to produce out of my business add value to that problem or solve that problem? So it's a problem-solving strategy.
Love it. Great. All right. Favorite business tool or resource?
Oh, I am a mind map junkie. if for those listening, if you're not too familiar with mind maps, just Google them. They've been around for a long time. Again, it comes back to the visual learner.
Yeah.
I absolutely think it is the best way to A, understand what you're doing, and B, to convey that message to whom you're talking with. I carry around it's like a sheet of paper this big that I mind mapped out with colored pencils and all that good jazz. And when people say to me, well, what is the COG space? I will literally show them the mind map. I will show it to them and say, okay, here's what it is. These are all the areas I think we're adding value. These are the areas we're having challenge. So mind maps are they are fantastic. They are incredibly helpful. Yeah. And when you create them, you retain them. They're a tool originally built for retention, for you remembering what you're writing down. So check them out. They're fantastic.
Cool. All right. And lastly, just so that people get to know a little bit more about you behind the scenes.
Sure.
Tell us about maybe a most recent exciting adventure or your favorite hobby.
Oh, I got this one down. I spent this last Sunday running a 20-mile road or trail run down in Bend for the Peterson Ridge Rumble, actually in Sisters.
Nice.
Took me 4 hours, 7 minutes, and I got my dog with me and my girlfriend, and we both tackled it together with 2 other friends. And
wow,
I'm still sore. So first time doing a long run. I'm not a big runner, but I've gotten into it. There's nothing better than feeling completely exhausted and having a natural endorphin high from getting outside in nature. So
and doing it in that environment. Oh my gosh.
Right.
Incredible.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I don't know if I can do much more than 20 miles, but it was a cool experience.
You're not going to aim for the 150 miler yet?
Right. Yeah, I met a guy today who was running a 200 miler, and I looked at him like, are you crazy?
Are you sane?
What are you thinking, man? Yeah. I may try and go to a marathon. The conversations come up just because they're so close. 5 months of training.
I know.
I've already put that into it. Maybe another month I might sneak one in.
Yeah.
We'll see. I mean, I'm not getting any younger, so it just gets harder over time.
Fantastic. Great. All right. How about let's talk about, so in your current project, the COG Space, you're currently going through the funding process. You've got your space, you're getting set up. Share with the listeners and viewers that are interested in this, like how they can partake in the funding, how that might work to help you guys like really get to the next level.
Yeah. So we bootstrapped the initial funding to get our space, which if you're familiar with Portland, it's in the Tiffany Center and 14th in Morrison downtown, which is an old historic building, and we have the top floor with a natural daylight coming in. And we're at the step now where we need to build out that space. So we've got the space acquired on a 3-year term. So we're crowdfunding right now through Indiegogo, trying to raise about $13,000 to basically get all the furniture, get the lighting up, get the desks, the chairs, the tables, and make it a very vibrant, exciting environment, which is our mission and purpose. So if you were to go to Indiegogo.com and type in the COG Space, COG Space, you should be able to find the campaign that we're running. We're about 50% funded with, I think, another 25 days to go. We've had a couple big donors come in, which is great. This comes back to the conversation of social purpose and people being excited about investing in the cycling industry and seeing that, hey, I ride a bike. I'm going to benefit from this if more bike-based businesses exist.
Absolutely.
So that's the way to help out. And quite honestly, when you're a startup, you're always looking for in-kind help. You're looking for people to come together and say, I'm passionate about what you're doing. I have a similar passion. I'm great in social media. I'm great in writing newsletters. So we're always looking for people to chip in and help out. Okay. And of course, we give out free space because we got tons of that right now. And that's a great way for listeners to help out.
Okay, great. So I'll link that up in the show notes for the listeners on the podcast. Can go to the show notes for the show and the startup sessions and find that link. And then I'll also make sure that there's contact for anybody who wants to reach out to you
Please.
On anything related to what you're doing. Cool.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And let's one more question for you here too.
Sure.
What's like the next most exciting thing happening for you with the COG Space and what you're doing? Any events planned or anything that you want to mention?
Yeah, great question. So we're opening our doors here in mid-May. I think May 12th is the day we've got officially signed up, although it's a soft launch, right? We'll have to fine-tune it. The most exciting thing I have going on in this is I'm officially running Kick Portland, which is an Accelerator curriculum based out of Seattle, out of his name's Michael Lives, or Looney is what he goes by, who founded this program last year. And I've been meeting and understanding the curriculum. It's 6 weeks based. We help you crowdsource your tuition or crowdfund your tuition. It doesn't cost you any money. And so the goal is the exciting piece is we're getting ready to launch it. Looking like July is probably our first cohort. And we're looking for roughly 8 to 10 startup businesses or entrepreneurs that have a fantastic idea that's socially driven, that need help. They need to understand how to take this business idea and grow it. And it's an all-inclusive incubator, so we don't really turn anyone away. Most of the time, we'd like to see some ideas that it's more than just, well, I want to build I don't know, Velcro that doesn't make a noise, from one of those movies, but something simple like that. So I'm really excited about Kick because this is more hands-on. This is where we've talked about brainstorming sessions, and we're matching up small businesses with mentors. We're basically eliminating those steps that people have to starting a business. They don't know all the things that are required. We'll help you get there. And it won't really. It'll cost you. You're not paying for it. Other people are paying for it basically by crowdfunding it. So I'm super excited by this. We're the only ones in Portland doing it. It's rolling out in Victoria, Vancouver, Bay Area, Denver, and I believe Nairobi, of all places.
Wow.
And Seattle, of course, this summer. So this is a great opportunity for people to jump in with an idea, or maybe already have a small business going on, but they need to get to scale. They don't really know what their next level is. We're looking for those kinds of applicants.
Okay. Wow. Fantastic opportunity. And like we were talking about before, no lack of resources for people that want to either get their business to the next level or kick it off, get it off the ground.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Superb. All right, my friend.
Thanks, Michael.
I've had a blast. This is fantastic. And this will not be the end of our personal conversations for sure. I'm super excited about what you got going on. And thank you so much for sharing such valuable advice with the listeners on today's show. I love it. I love it. I love it. And I just appreciate it so much. So thank you very much, Dave Hoch, for being on the show. Best of luck to you and continuing with the COG Space and the work that you're doing. And for anyone out there that wants to support and get behind this great venture, by all means, do it. Check it out. It's good stuff. Great.
Cool. Thanks for your time today, Michael. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right. For everyone that's listened today, thank you so much. And we'll look forward to seeing you and hearing you on next week's episode of the Startup Sessions. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Hey, if you enjoyed this interview, be sure to go to thestartupsessions.com and sign up to have the latest interviews delivered to your inbox weekly. All of these interviews are also offered on video at thestartupsessions.com, or get the audio version via the Startup Sessions podcast. Just hop on over to iTunes and subscribe to the podcast there. Thank you so much for listening and watching. I know that your time is valuable, so I do my very best to provide the most inspirational and actionable content for creating a meaningful business. I'll see you on the next episode of the Startup Sessions.